Welcome to another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw, where we give you the information the mainstream news simply will not cover, making sure that you're properly informed. Now, if you've been following the Yes California Twitter and Facebook page, you've noticed that we've inserted a lot of high-level news articles in there. Now, one of the things that we focused on the Yes California Facebook and the Yes California Twitter page was that California values are massively out of alignment with the majority of Americans. That the things that we hold true in California and we believe are normal and we think are the baseline inputs of a good life, the standard rights that everybody have, is not shared with the majority of American states, which means that American values are out of line with California. Now, that may sound like an academic topic, except that recently we pointed out on our Facebook and our Twitter page that this directly relates to abortion access and transgender rights. And that California values are massively out of line with American values when it comes to transgender people and when it comes to abortion access. And you just saw where a conservative Supreme Court will undo guaranteed access to abortion. Why? Because as we've said, America suffers from TOM, tyranny of the minority. Into the Constitution, 35 states have control over the Senate and the presidency, and therefore the Supreme Court, and they can nominate conservative Supreme Court justices and get laws that people like us in California view as essential overturned. This is not academic. You're about to lose your guaranteed right to abortion, and people are already predicting that if that happens, the court is legally set up to overturn the precedent regarding gay marriage. So, abortion rights struck down, transgender rights struck down, LGBTQ rights struck down. That's coming now and predicted to be coming soon. And the reason that happens is because of tyranny of the minority. 35 states have control. And we wanted to show you how out of line California values are with the majority of your American states. AKA, here are other things that you view as rights and essential that might be taken away from you or not shared with your fellow Americans. We'll get right into that, but first, take a look at this. Well, you can check us out on the Yes California Facebook page, the Yes California Twitter page, and of course the Yes California YouTube channel that you're watching now. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. It helps us. Okay, in today's topic, we're going to talk about rights that are not shared with between California and the majority of Americans. So let me get into, I'm going to go over a email that walks you through all this, and then I'll show you all the sources so that you can check everything out for yourself. Okay. So right now what you're looking at is a moral acceptability of issues by ideology poll. And this comes from the Gallup poll. It came out recently. I'll show you that in a little bit. But basically, this is the chart. And what it shows you is the issues that are very important in America and where there's a gigantic difference between liberals and conservatives. Now, I understand that the data is a little bit more detailed and nuanced than what we're saying here, but generally California is liberal, and generally the 35 states that compose TOM are conservative. That's how Trump got to be president in 2016. That's how Trump almost won the presidency in 2020, with Joe Biden only winning the popular vote by 2%. And that's how Trump was able to get the Supreme Court to be conservative dominated, was because these 35 to 40 states that are conservative. So when you see in the conservative column, think red states. And when you see in the liberal column, think California. And that last liberal-conservative gap represents a percentage difference in where Californians feel on the values and where conservatives feel on the values. And this is key. We're talking about abortion. And people have strong opinions about abortion, but people have strong opinions about climate change and gun control and the existence of aliens. What does that all mean? You know, we're talking about ice cream flavors here, or are we talking about the basic views of what's right and wrong? And this poll gives us some indication from Gallup poll. So when it comes to abortion, there is a 61% gap. 61% gap, over half. 61% gap on if abortion is morally acceptable or not between liberals and conservatives. So in California, about 86% of Californians would view abortion as acceptable. But in those 35 red states, only 25% of the population would view abortion as acceptable. So California compared to those 35 Tom states, 61% difference. There's no way that Californians view abortion the way that these conservative states do. Second issue, gay or lesbian relations, LGBTQ rights. Again, assuming liberals mean California, conservatives mean 35 states. In California, we have about 92% for LGBTQ rights. And in those Tom states of 35, it's about 51%, or a 41% difference between how accepting Californians are of gay and lesbians, LGBTQ2 plus IA people, and how accepting of LGBTQ people those 35 Tom states are. Now let's take a look at sex between teenagers. In California, it's about 69% of Californians okay with it. In conservative America, only 28% of Americans are okay with it. So this is about a 41% data gap between where Californians typically stand and where Americans in those 35 states stand. When we took at doctor-assisted suicide, aka medical assistance on committing suicide, again, a 40% gap. So Californians support that about 40% more than people in 35 states. When we look at sex between an unmarried man and a woman, also known as premarital sex, about 93% of Californians compared to 57% in the Tom states. Again, looking at this in a general manner, not nuanced, with a 36% point difference on is premarital sex acceptable between California and those 35 states. And finally, on stem cell research, it's also 36% difference in support in California versus those 35 Tom states. Now, stem cell research is important because California asked for stem cell research when George W. Bush was president. He rejected it. And then, like a separate nation, California said, well, we're going to go ahead and do stem cell research all on our own, and we really don't care what your federal government has to say. If you look into articles in the 2002-2003 debate over stem cell research, California said, oh, does the federal government not want us to do this? We could care less, and we're going to go ahead and do it. People even joked about California's secession regarding California's attitude towards ignoring federal regulations on stem cell research. So that's a key one. Now, these aren't all the moral issues. Gallup covers about 30. But I wanted to show you that for these 6 issues, abortion, gay rights, sexual liberty for teenagers, the ability to have a doctor-assisted suicide, premarital sex, and stem cell research, huge gaps of support between Californians and the average opinion in 35 to 40 states, or a majority of America, who controls the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, as we've routinely talked here under the premise of Tom, tyranny of the minority. So when we look at these 6 issues, and 61% difference on abortion, 41% difference on LGBTQ, 41% difference on teenage sex, 40% difference on doctor-assisted suicide, 36% difference on premarital sex, 36% difference on stem cell research. Now, how does that look when we look at America? Well, this is a map that we recently tried to post up at Yes California. And it says states where Roe v. Wade is overturned. And what you're looking at is red equals certain to ban abortion if Roe v. Wade is overturned. Black equals likely to ban abortion if Roe v. Wade is overturned. Gray is not expected to ban abortion. And orange is laws, constitutions, law protects abortion rights. So gray means they're not going to ban abortion, and orange Anything that is not gray and orange is bad. Everything red and black means they're going to ban abortion. So if you look at that map, you can see about 35 states, or almost the entirety of the interior of America, is going to ban abortion. And if you look at the number of states that are orange and gray, they are a minority compared to the states in red and black. So orange and gray equals okay with abortion. Red and black means against abortion, and you're going to overturn it when Roe v. Wade is overturned. And what you can see is we've separated California out. California is orange, and that orange color does not match with the way a majority of American states are. And the difference between California and those red and black states on abortion is 61%. So when you're looking at this map, not only is the majority of these American states against abortion, while California is for abortion, the difference between California and those states, in opinion, is a 61% gap. Huge. That'll never be overcome, ever. There will never be parity or commonality on abortion with that many states and a 61% gap. Here's the next one. Transgender. So a lot of states are banning transgender youth in sports. They are taking away the rights of transgender people to participate in youth sports. Here's a map showing that. So white and gray equals not banning transgender sports. Light green equals banning transgender sports. So look at all the light green states. That's about 35, or a majority of the interior of America is for banning transgender sports, when California in white and the states in gray are not for it. You can see California is clearly out of line with the values of majority of the states. And here we go. 41% difference in how Californians view rights for transgender and LGBTQ versus America. So we are outnumbered by 35 states in green, and there is a 41% difference in support for transgender in California in white versus those states in green. Okay, the next one. DC, legal physician-assisted suicide. So California and the states in blue allow legal physician-assisted suicide. The states in gray do not. Almost all of America is gray. So again, California is massively out of line with a way that a majority of American states operate with physician-assisted suicide. And the difference between California and those states, 40% difference in opinion between blue states and gray states on physician-assisted suicide. 40%. We're never going to come to terms on that. Stem cell research. Now, this map is a little bit old. It's from 2014, and more states do allow stem cell research. But in 2014, when this is a highly controversial issue, I want you to see how California was out of line with the majority of American states. So in 2014, California and the states in yellow and green were okay with stem cell research, and all of the states in gray were not on board with stem cell research. You can see that a majority of the interior of America was gray. States in yellow and green are the minority. So California was a minority, where a majority of American states did not agree with it on stem cell research. And the difference of support on stem cell research is 36%. 36% difference between states that are for stem cell research in green and yellow and states that are not in gray. 21 states and DC explicitly allow minors to obtain contraceptive services without a parent's consent. So we looked at this for teenage sex. Teenage sex is one of those values where in California, we're very, pro teenage sex, if that's what you want to do, obviously, being proper, et cetera. And then other states, they aren't. So every state in dark green allows minors, teenagers, to get contraception for sex. And every state in light green does not. So look at all the light green states. All those light green states do not support teenagers getting contraception to have sex. All of the dark green states do support teenagers having contraception for sex. California is one of 21 states, which means about 29 states, or roughly over half of America, is against California's policy. So over half of America's in the light green states are out of line with California views on contraceptions for teenagers. And the difference is 41%. There's a 41% difference between how California feels about sex for teenagers and how the average American state is. And you can see how over half of American states are out of line with California views on this. Okay, here we go. This one is particularly bothersome. So I didn't know this, but in a lot of American states, you can marry a minor with parental consent or without parental consent. It depends. And so technically, you could have sex with a minor, which is a crime. But if you marry that person, then it's not a crime in that state. So R. Kelly famously married Aaliyah when she was 13 or 14 and he was 30. So that's a federal crime. That's pedophilia. But if you marry him, it's not a crime. Isn't that wonderful? I'm joking. It's not wonderful. So when you look at states that say, as long as you marry the person, it's okay to commit pedophilia, we're basically looking at all the states in purple and dark gray. And if you look at the states that say, no, it's not okay to commit pedophilia, even if you marry them, those are the states in white. Once again, California is outnumbered. There are more states in purple and dark gray that are okay with pedophilia through marriage, whereas California is in a minority of states that are not okay with that. And the difference? Well, it's 36%. So again, 36% on the way difference between how the privileges that Californians view teenagers should have versus the privileges that Americans should. So California is not like America on this, definitely. We do not share that opinion with America. I just wanted you to see how to line that is. Now, here's the other thing. One of the last value issues was premarital sex amongst adults. So we look at two things. One is that there is a survey, and I'll show it to you in a second, that says that millennials are the most for premarital sex in comparison to previous generations. So millennials, most supportive of premarital sex in comparison to other generations. Now, when we look at this map here, who has the majority of the millennials? Well, it's in the bright pink area. California is one of a few states that are in bright pink. So you can see, I think, Utah, Colorado. I think that is, I forget the name of the state. Minnesota, Texas, Georgia, North Virginia, New York, and California. So about 6-7 states are crawling with millennials, and about 43 states are not. So if you look at that map, the areas in pink are full of millennials, and the areas in gray are not. California is full of millennials. A majority of American states are not. Millennials are overwhelmingly supportive for premarital sex, while other generations are not. So when we look at the rise of millennials, California has more millennials, which means it is more acceptable in California demographically to have premarital sex than it is in those gray states. Meaning, again, California values are out of line with American values. And the difference on premarital sex is 36% between California and conservatives. So let's cover that one more time just so you can get it. Here's the poll. These are value statements. How do you feel about abortion, LGBTQ rights, sex between teenagers, doctor-assisted suicide, sex between people who are unmarried, and medical research on stem cells? Well, when we look at abortion, California is massively out of line with all of the red and black states by 61% difference. When we look at transgender youth sports, California is massively out of line with all the states in light green by about 41% difference of opinion. When we look at physician-assisted suicide, California is massively out of line with all of the gray-colored states with its differences of opinion of 40%. When we look at stem cell research, California in yellow is massively out of line with all the gray-colored states by about 36%. When we look at the ability of teens to have contraception, California in dark green is massively out of line with the states in light green by about 41% difference of opinion. And when we look at the ability to commit pedophilia as part of marriage, California in white is massively out of line with the states in purple and gray. California is massively out of line with the rest of America in its percentage of millennials, and therefore that means that California is massively out of line with the rest of America on acceptance of premarital sex at 36%. So that's what we showed you. Now I'm going to show you the sources. So let me show you that just so you can see that everything's true. Okay, so this is the survey. There you go. Moral acceptability of issues by ideology. There it is. There's a lot of things there, but I took the top big ones. And this comes from this article here. From the Gallup poll, June 9th, got Americans say birth control, divorce morally acceptable by Megan Brennan on June 9th. California is one of 10 states to allow medical aid in dying. Here's a list of those states. That comes from this article here. U.S. News. Assisted suicide. Here's the map that comes from BritannicaProcon.org. States with legal physician assisted suicide updated March 2022. Here's the stem cell research map that comes from Vox News. And here's that article from Vox News. Child marriage or statutory rape. Here's that map. And it comes from this article here. Child marriage or statutory rape from the Journal of Adolescent Health in 2021. SDSU, California University, reveals acceptance of premarital sex and same-sex relationships as an all-time high. Millennials born between 1980 and 1990s were more accepting of premarital sex. So there's that study. Came out in 2015. Here's the location of millennials from overflow data from 2016. Adolescents able to obtain contraception from the Guttmacher Institute. Here is the title of that article, 2019. Here's the Pew Global Research. What just happened? There we go. Transgender banning transgender youth in sports from Pew Global Research. Here's that map. There's the source by 2021. What happens over Roe v. Wade? The states that will overturn Roe v. Wade. Here's that map by the Brookings Institute, and that came from this article, What Happens After Roe v. Wade, on May 3rd, 2022. And finally, states where abortion would be protected or attacked matches this map, and this comes from ABC Television. And here's the article there. Well, it's a relatively short episode, and I think we proved the point. When you look at a variety of issues, social issues, there's a gigantic gap in opinion on top 6 social issues. And when we looked at those top 6 social issues and maps that were related to them, we could see that California was out of line with over half of America. So California doesn't share the opinion on the top 6 social issues with 35 American states by a percentage of 36 to 61%, 1/3 to 2/3 difference in opinion. And California shares that gap in opinion with about 35 states on 6 different social issues. The point of the show is to prove to you California values are massively out of line with American values on a massive array of issues. It's probably never going to get fixed. And given that the issues battle is going to conservatives, since Tom, tyranny of the minority, 35 to 45 states will control the presidency and the Senate, and therefore the Supreme Court, the values battle is not going our way. We're losing. Overturning Roe v. Wade was not a win for California values. Okay, that was the opposite. And people are already talking about if you could overturn Roe v. Wade, you could start overturning LGBTQ and all these other things. So California, you have lost for your values fight in America. You are losing, and you lost bad. And when we look at it, there's a bunch of other issues where you're out of line with the way Americans feel, and those Americans control the courts, and so they will most likely be able to take away more of your rights. Hashtag CalExit, hashtag CalExit, hashtag CalExit Congress, hashtag CalExit Now, hashtag California, hashtag Independence, hashtag Texit, hashtag Eternia, hashtag New Hampshire Exit, hashtag MIBC, Movimiento de Independencia de Baja California, hashtag Aloha Independence, hashtag CalTexit, hashtag CalTexit Now, hashtag Cascadia, hashtag Cascadia, hashtag Pacifica, and of course, like and subscribe us, and thank you. We'll see you next time.